Okay, you're going to need a button, a hand sewing needle, and your bookmark. You're going to unroll a long piece of thread, a length from arm to arm or T-post. You're going to fold that in half and then stick the folded end through the eye of the needle. So I've got the fold here that comes through the eye of my needle with 2 tails over here. So I have 4 total ends of the thread here. And I'm going to tie a knot at the end. Trim away any extra hanging off so it doesn't show up weird for your button. Okay, I've got the 2 ends of my thread here. I'm going to come all the way down here. It's a little bit easier to put a fold through the eye of the needle, this circle, than to try to get 2 separate ends of thread through your needle. Closer to the end of your needle you hold it, or end of the thread you hold it, the better. And then you can just slip that through, and there we go. And you're going to pull this loop down to meet with your other 2 ends down here. So now I've got all 4 bits of thread hanging out here. I need a knot down here. It doesn't particularly matter what kind of knot you have, as long as it's good enough that it doesn't come back through your fabric. If you'd like to try my favorite knot, I just cross my thread over top of the needle where I want the knot, pinch it with my other finger, wrap this around about 3-4 times, and then I'm going to pinch this bunch of wrapped thread and slide the needle up through, and I'm going to keep pinching until I've pulled all of this thread all the way through to the very end. And I'm going to pull it nice and tight, and there we go. Lo and behold, a nice little knot there at the end. Whatever knot you have will work. I just like that one. And the next piece of information to know about doing this is we're going to actually need to make sure the button's on the right side of our bookmark. The side that we folded down and sewed on is technically the wrong side of the bookmark, so we're going to want the button on the opposite side. You're also going to need a toothpick for this because we're going to be creating a thread shank. Okay, simply put, this side, because this fold is considered the wrong side of our bookmark, so when we use our bookmark, it's going to fold over this way and hook on the button this way. We do not want to see the fold. In other words, the opposite side of the bookmark is the one we're going to put our button on. So we're going to center this here. You can center it with the edge, or if you want to be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, center it inside your stitching box. And then I'm just going to get rid of it for a second and do what I call a pin stitch. I pin down through the fabric like I was pinning with my needle, and then I'm going to pull this tight. This is going to allow the knot to hide underneath my button. Okay, next step, got my needle, going to take my button. Technically this side is the top of the button, but if you like this side better, go for it, doesn't matter. And I'm going to come up through one of these holes in my button. Okay, I'm not going to pull it tight just yet. The most common way to sew on a button is to make an X, so I'd have to go diagonally through. Or you could go parallel. Or you could do some sort of 3-fingered thing. Or you could create a box. I'm going to do an X. So you come diagonally through this one. I'm just going through the button right now. Ta-da. Just the button. And then I'm going to ignore the button again for just a minute. And always on this side of my fabric, I'm going to go down and come up in a pin stitch. And then I can suck the button up a little bit, but leave space underneath for right now. Okay, if I'm making an X, I only have one side of the X, so I need to come up the button through one of these holes, and then go diagonally through the other one. And then I'm going to do my same little pin stitch here, trying to keep all my things close together. So now my button is just kind of hanging out here. At this point, I need a toothpick. We need to have enough space underneath our button so that this hair tie can actually get underneath. To do that, we're going to create a thread shank. Easiest way to do that is we're going to take our toothpick, slide it in here underneath our X so we have space of extra thread here, and then you can just tug on your thread and work it tight so that your X now is tight against the toothpick. There we go. Okay, at this point life becomes really easy. I'm between the fabric and the button, so I'm just going to come straight up through one of these holes. As long as it's not the same one I went down, make sure I don't wrap around the toothpick. And now I'm above the toothpick. My goal is 3 complete X's. I have 1. I just came up this hole, so I need to go down this one. So I'm going to stab straight through the button and straight through the fabric on the back. And then I'm going to pull this all the way through. Now, the slightly more tricky part is coming back up through the set of holes that I just did not come down. So I'm going to stab through. Now I'm coming up through this hole. Now I have 1.5 complete X's, so I need to come diagonally straight across here and go down this one. I'm always going through the button if I've come up through the button. And on the back, I'm always going through the fabric since I came out. If you come around, you're going to get this loop of fabric around the edge of your bookmark and your button, and it's going to look trashy and make it difficult for your bookmark to work. Okay. Going to stab through, come up through a hole I didn't just use, because I have 2 X's, and I'm going to go diagonally down the opposite one. And then I need to come diagonally up, or back through the hole I haven't gone through, and then back down to the back. I now have 3 complete X's for my button. And all my stitches are pretty close together on the back. Now I'm going to carefully remove my toothpick, pull my button up a little bit so that the extra thread is now underneath the button. Then I'm going to go through the fabric, under the button, but not through the button. Because I have this lovely bit of extra thread here, but it's a little bit messy. What we're going to do now is actually make the thread shank, which makes it a nice tight column of thread. To do so, I wrap the thread around the button so I've got a circle, and then I take my needle up through the circle and I pull it tight. That's once. I'm going to repeat this about 5 times. If you're running out of thread, maybe hold off and only do 3. Okay, there we go, 5 times. And looking under here, I now have a pretty solid column of thread, holding my button off the fabric enough for my hair tie to go underneath. Last thing I need is to tie this off in a knot so that it won't come undone. My personal favorite way to do this is to take a small stitch, a thin stitch of the fabric here underneath the button, come through most of the way but leave a circle. And I'm going to go through the circle and pull that tight. That ties a knot right in my fabric. But just like your shoes, if you don't want it to come undone, you should double knot it. So one, some more, in the same exact spot, go through the loop and pull it tight. At this point, I can now cut off this thread, and I am done with my button. If that is tricky for you, you can do a circle, come through, and then pull it tight up against the fabric, whichever floats your boat. And I'm going to cut this off, not too close, but far enough that it's underneath my button. And there we go. This is now a complete bookmark that will latch around the outside of your book.